So there was a new patch that dropped here. Yeah, some big changes here. This is going to be happening on the 2nd. So we're a day ahead here in Korea. So I don't know if this is going to be an update midstream for this or not, but it's cool to see how quickly they're changing stuff. So it says we wanted to talk about the reasons behind balance changes that are expected to come in tomorrow, as well as cover additional topics as well. Destroyer. Prioritize durable units in range first, higher than others. So I guess that would mean that the Destroyer would never default onto a small crab, only a king crab. That's interesting. I don't know if I like that. I felt like you had to really micro those Destroyers, and you got super rewarded if you did. Decrease damage versus expansions and cores by 50%. Okay, so this isn't too surprising. Destroyers could, in 4 shots, kill your expansion. So Destroyers could actually 2-shot a base. Which is wild. I mean, I guess we all knew that was actually going to happen. I still think it's viable to just kind of dive on Expos with Destroyers. I mean, it's still pretty good. But I guess you can at least, if you see it happening, do something where before you couldn't. Range decreased by 16.7. That seems pretty punitive, but I guess that would pair well with the fact that they prioritize higher units first. Because the Destroyer's range was already pretty bad. Huh. What we would like to test with this unit is for units such as these, where you must focus fire durable units first because damage versus everything else is so marginal. We wondered if we can reduce this type of clicks required. They got to get someone who can write better, who puts these up here. I feel like a lot of these updates by them are very hard to follow. Require clicks to play for this kind of unit. And for your info, anti-air units already work this way for prioritizing air units first. I didn't realize that. Interesting. However, we also wanted to try combining this with a range nerf so that the positioning of this unit still matters when using Destroyers. The goal is to change up the micro needed to be a bit more of a positional one rather than a right-click on the right units or else you can't build this unit type of micro. Okay. We also agree with general beta players' feedback regarding they just kill expansions and cores way too fast right now, so we wanted to try the anti-building damage change. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I guess if you're like a newer player too, even for good players, man, I've won a lot of games just because I got a Destroyer to their base. I wouldn't mind seeing something in like tier 2 tech that did kill buildings as fast, because I do think it's an interesting way to play. I mean, you've got your moments where you do your mortar pushes and they seem to work really well, and then you've got these the style I've been enjoying is like either scorpion or crab with a king crab or a crusader and kind of pushing them back. Hey, middle stall, thank you so much.
Write in a journal about what you think you know about Brood War and then light it on fire, because you don't know anything.
Thank you for this sub. I'm going to pause subs for now. Appreciate the sub, man. Thank you so much. Welcome to the channel. Hope you stick with me. But the style I was doing was like crab, king crab, and you kind of make them kite and micro back, and then you have 2 Destroyers target down their buildings, and it's really strong. Okay, bomber. You know what's funny? I actually forgot this was a unit. When I first looked at the game, this was the unit that stood out to me the most, obviously because it's Baneling-esque. And now I'm thinking, why have I not even tried this unit? I think we've used about half the units in the game, by the way. The bomber's health has been increased by 8.3%. We wonder if we need to redesign this unit a bit eventually, because bombers also fall into the type of category mentioned above. If you run bombers into non-small units, you might have lost the game. But in the meantime, bombers just don't see a lot of play. Okay, so I'm not alone on this. So we wanted to try the small change so that splash damage units don't one-shot the bomber anymore. Okay, I guess that makes sense. So they're a little bit tankier. You got to be careful with units like this. Butterfly. Oh, this is surprising. Okay, health increased by 28.6%. We currently like the role of the butterfly, and based on feedback so far, it definitely seems to have its place in terms of design. However, we did also agree with feedback coming in that they're a bit too fragile. We wanted to try this health increase to see if we can have the butterfly in a better spot in terms of tuning. Ultimately, the goal for the butterfly is to keep it in a place where you can really punish opponents when anti-air isn't available at that location. But when the anti-air is in play in that location, other air units such as Falcons versus ground or airships versus air are much stronger options. So I will agree that, like, if you don't have like 7 or 8 butterflies or more, it does seem like you can just get any anti-air and win the fight. That includes tier 1. I'm mainly running Hornets with my anti-air. We've messed around a little bit with missile bots. But yeah. Yeah, I mean, let's see what happens with that. I don't think that's I'm kind of neutral on that change. King Crab, health increased by 14.3%. Okay, guys, we're going to get to 10k MMR on this stream. Similar reasoning as above. We do like the current role of the King Crab a bit more of an all-round unit in terms of tanking versus harassing, as compared to something like Crusader, which is clearly more suited for direct combat tanking. We wanted to try an increase in effectiveness in combat to see if that's a better spot for this unit. Okay, very cool. I will say, I'm curious now if that means the King Crab will die in 2 shots to a destroyer instead of 1. Right now, the destroyer 1 shots a King Crab, which is wild. But then again, the difference between 1 shot and 2 shot or 3 shot even is crazy too. Mortar, the health has been decreased by 16.7. We wanted to try a bit more fragile version of the mortar so that when they are in a direct fight, when enemies do close in on the mortar, they can kill it a bit more effectively. We also wanted to talk about a couple more topics that come up during the beta. Okay, so that's the final change. The mortar, they need to have 1 key for siege mode and another key for unsiege. The mortar really pisses me off when I try to use it. It's not, first of all, there's barely, I don't even think there is a sound when you siege it up. Or if there is, I'm not noticing it. But there should be something audible for me and for the other player when I'm sieging and unsieging. It's the number of games where I've been playing StarCraft and I just hear a siege tank, I don't even see it, and I know to run away, is big. And I think it will allow players to react. I think maybe you should be more audible the closer you are to it. I'm talking about the opponent in this case. But yeah, I mean, it just seems like they need to fix that unit a little bit. I do agree with the health decrease. I actually think it would be better if it just did a lot of damage, but also was weak. But yeah, it's a very difficult unit to close in on certain compositions, and it does seem like once they set up, that position's kind of untouchable. But I guess they're kind of finding their way with this. They're gonna look into an easier way to control group units. This one, like we mentioned in the past before, we've been trying quite a lot of ideas on what will be the best for this type of game. Generally speaking, where we want to go is something very easy to learn that helps save a lot of tedious clicks required to control multiple groups of armies. Reason why is quite simple. Especially this early on into the game's life cycle, we want to make changes that will help the majority of gamers. Not necessarily something so complex that only hardcore and pro players will use. While we do hope we get there someday, where even just the hardcore exports competitive group of players is so large that we are making specific game options to cater only to them, we don't feel we're quite there yet, although we would love to be there. All right, let me read on. For example, excuse me. For example, we've explored options such as all units of this type go into this group automatically, but the issue with this is we didn't think our game is so simple like this. There are definitely situations where you want to split up the same unit type quite often. Not to mention the complexity players would need to solve for the cases of exactly what I want. And where we are now is, how can we reduce the number of tedious clicks required to control group units as much as possible while having the most straightforward and easiest system to understand? Yeah, that's a tough one. So our proposal here is quite simple. If you turn on auto control groups option, all units that you've built goes into one control group. And naturally, how our control groups already work is you simply choose to select the specific units you want to be in another control group and assign them appropriately. This way, we're cutting out all the clicks required to add a new unit to your main army control group, and only one time you have to manually control group your side army. Your side army units that you want in a different control group. We're very curious what your thoughts are on this type of pitch, so thanks in advance. Also, thanks Xiao, one of our gameplay engineers, for implementing this and other easier ways to control groups. So, thank you for the sub. I appreciate you, Crane. Your alert will play right when we're done making this video. There is some kind of problem right now in Battle Aces where I don't know if this is going to make sense, but let me just say it. I can't feel what I'm holding. In other games, I can feel it. I can feel which units I'm controlling and grabbing. And at first I couldn't figure out, like, why do I think that? What does that mean? Like, sometimes I think I'm controlling control group 1 and I'm actually controlling control group 2, or I'm controlling, I might have accidentally hit the all units grab button. It's because it doesn't have anything on the UI that's showing what I've got. So if I have my harassing king crab that I always run into their natural base and kill workers, I should have something that's telling me that I am only grabbing that unit. If I hit the grab all units button, something should light up that says I have just grabbed everything. And so occasionally I just find that I'm moving groups around that I wasn't. And when I play I'm going to use StarCraft 1. I know this is like a very dated example for an RTS game, but actually we can even use Warcraft 3 because we were streaming that before this. Again, also dated, 2 decades old, but you can see at the bottom of the screen what you've grabbed. Now, I think what they're trying to do is make the game as minimalist as possible, but it seems like Uncapped Games has gotten too minimalist in this regard. Because I need to know what I've got in my hands when I'm playing. I need to know if it's the control group that has the mortars or not. Now, they're trying to address a fundamental issue, which is like, how do you and there's something to this, right? I'm not losing any sleep over it because I've been control grouping stuff since I was in 7th grade, right? Playing StarCraft. But yeah, that is a repetitive action to constantly rebind units. And for those of you watching this that that want to get good at Battle Aces, I'm going to give you a tip right now. You should be relying on the grab all units button as little as possible. We just got top ace yesterday. We're going to see if we can get a higher MMR. Maybe we'll try 2v2. I don't know. But the games I'm winning, it's because I have enough stuff happening all over the map that I can punish them. This is a huge problem in StarCraft 2 for people that are trying to learn, is they become completely dependent on the grab all units button. And they get to a reasonably high rank, and then they are fucked. Because then they have not learned the habits of a player who's actually juggling and multitasking. So I don't know how they're going to address this. I think it's worth them trying it. But remember that if you're going to get deep in this game, you want to be able to have things like, if you watch my games, and we're still running King Crab a lot, basically every game you will see me run one King Crab through a natural, and in many games it'll happen like 3 or 4 times. You want to be able to have units that you send out and then forget about and do other things. So while I think this is cool, they're trying to address this, and I'm wondering what this will do, I do worry that this is going to hinder players long term. All right, moving on. One player always being at the bad location in 2v2. By the way, I don't know anything about 2v2. We haven't tried it yet. I thought I would be playing it on the first day. We've been 1v1ing exclusively. We might try 2v2ing today. We heard feedback around this, and we are preparing to test and change internally. Right now, the player 2 in all 2v2 games, all of their workers, I don't know why I find these balance patches hard to read. All of their workers in every expansion are more exposed. Oh, interesting. To harassment, I guess more so than player 1. This felt wrong in terms of playing a team game rather than a POV. So Gavin, our only environmental artist that also heads up our lore, made a quick change today for us to be able to do some team play tests on. In the meantime, though we wanted your feedback on this type of change as well so that we can move more quicker on making the change to beta if this is in fact a good change, our goal here is quite simple. We want to make sure that both players are always defending both players' workers together at every resource location. And here's a quick look at the image. So it looks like they would have I had not even thought of this, but I guess this is actually a pretty big factor. So player 1, as an example, is always here. Player 2 is going to be, especially at the natural expansion, always the one who's going to lose his or her workers first. So they're going to try to make it go in opposite positions. I guess this is good. I don't have much to say on this. All right, well, we've already had 2 patches here coming from Uncapped Games. Exciting stuff. We are top ace, by the way. If I don't know which video is going to drop on my YouTube, but if you're seeing this video, it's either already up or it'll be up tomorrow. My journey to top ace. I'm going to be putting some builds on here as well. Thank you so much for joining me. See this GG shirt with a smashed keyboard? You can get that at tastelessthreads.com, my merch shop, along with a bunch of other cool stuff. Mugs, hoodies, posters, things like that. So I hope you check that out. And be sure to join me on my Twitch stream. It's twitch.tv/tastelesstv, where you can watch me make these videos live, as well as play Battle Aces and other games. Have a good day. Stay safe out there.